Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Cracking the Cryptic. We did puzzle number 9, the partial domino sandwich, took 153 minutes, and today we're going to do the twisting arrows puzzle number 10, which I don't think I've done twisting arrows as a variant for Arrow Sudoku. This is by Aspartagus Tagus. So let's just hop in. It's a new day for me, so I've slept probably twice since I last did a Sudoku puzzle. So if I maybe take a little bit of a break, maybe I'll do better, do quicker. So there are custom rules. They're starting at row 9, column 7, goes straight up. I guess they are telling you that because they don't want you to create this confusion that it maybe goes this way and then goes this way. But wouldn't it just make more sense if they had changed their programming a little bit so that there would have been a different color arrow here or here? You still potentially have problems here where the logical thought would be that this arrow starts here, then goes here, then goes here, then goes here, but you could just as easily think it goes here, then bounces back in an awkward way to this spot, and so this would be the first number, and then it just bounces back to this spot, then it just bounces back to this spot, then it bounces back to that spot. Most people wouldn't think that way, but it is at least a valid interpretation, particularly when you see that this spot here can curve around and this spot here curves around. Otherwise, it's going to be classic Sudoku. There must be 1 through 9 exactly once in every column, row, and box. And then the extra arrow variant is that numbers along the shaft of each arrow must sum to the number at the base. And so we may have actually done this in the 500, 500, 500, 500 puzzle. So this may actually be the second time I've done an arrow puzzle. I would argue that the icon of having a circle and an arrow go up like that makes it look far too much like the male symbol, which most people don't even use those symbols anymore. But it would perhaps have been better to point it in a different direction, unless you're just trying to be lazy and use an emoji, which maybe that's exactly what it is that well, the other icons aren't emoji, so I wouldn't expect that to be the case. There's no calculator here. Like other variants, we are starting with no numbers, and inherently these free-to-play sample puzzles are way too difficult, and they really should just be giving us more simplified versions of this. And if it were even a case that they were highlighting puzzles that Cracking the Cryptic's YouTube page had solved and showing off, maybe for the free puzzles in particular, since you're getting it for free, they should kind of spoil those puzzles by just having some starting numbers. Have a halfway finished state to start with in the free, and then have hard versions of twisting arrows. It'd be very easy to like at least double if not triple the difficulty on any of these puzzles by simply saying I'm going to eliminate all the ones of a solved version of this puzzle, 1s, 2s, and 3s, for instance. Like, that would still give you a nice like tutorial starter spot, and then medium could be 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s, and 6s, and then hard would be all the numbers. And it doesn't have to be numbers in order, it could just be 3 random numbers would be eliminated for easy, 6 random numbers would be eliminated for medium, all 9 numbers eliminate for hard. So the numbers along the shaft of each arrow must sum to the number at the base, which means you should probably, it seems like it always is the case, we should probably start with the longest. And let's just run an example here. If this is 1 and this is 2 and this is 3, well, let's just mark these instead of just speculating. If this was 1, if this was 2, if this was not 2 but 3, and I guess nothing really stops us from this from being 2. So let's go back and actually put a 2 here. Maybe I subconsciously saw that, because you could have a 2 here and here. And then, is anything really stopping this from being a 1? No. So the absolute smallest number that I think you could do on this would be that the combination of all of these, which would be 6. So we know now that this has to be 6, 7, 8, or 9. Okay. Now, let's run that same math. If this was 1, if this was 2, if this was 1, then that would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And inherently, I think what we're going to run into is that all of the bases here are going to be on some kind of minimum. If this is 1 and this is 2, then the smallest number it could be would be 3. And we can go ahead and put the same information here, and then I'll come back and delete these numbers in a second. If this is 1 and this is 2, the smallest number could be 3. Same is true here. So we're really only eliminating a little bit. The smallest number I suppose on the arrow could be 1 if it was only pointing to 1, but then you'd have a 1 and a 1 in the order, so you really couldn't do that unless it just diagonally pointed to a square. I guess it could diagonally point to a square, and then you'd have 1 here and 1 here. If it were pointing to this box and then this box, no, you would have to go diagonally again. Like if it was pointing to this box, then diagonally this, you could do 1 and 1 to get to 2. So I do think there are some scenarios. I don't think we really even need to run the math again here. We can just put in the same numbers from this one to that one, and the same numbers from that one to that one, and until we get a paired number. I don't know what we could do there. The differences, which will probably be our ends, are going to be these two or these two. This could be 3 or higher, because that could be a 1 and 2. And then this could be 3 or higher. So it seems like to me, from that line of logic alone, that doesn't get you very far. So let's potentially consider what numbers can it not be. Yeah, I think that's where we're going to run into is a bunch of numbers here that can't be 9. It's just not possible. Could be 8 and 1 in these two spots. 8 and 1 here is possible. 8 and 1 here would be possible, but it's also pointing to this, and 8 and 1 is not possible. 8 and 1 is possible there. But here, 8 isn't possible. And then the next combination for this number here and this number here would be 7, 2, 1, which adds up to 10. So 7's not possible. And then 6, 2, 1 is potentially possible in those boxes here, but this would be 6, 2, well, maybe that's possible too. No, no, 6, 2, 1, then we'd have to hold another number, so 6 is not possible. Then 5, and then 3 would be 8, then 2 would be 10, and then 1 would be 11, so 5's not possible. 6, 2, 1 is possible. Here is a 9. Alright. 4. So these are our ends here, which is by a process of elimination going to find out that only a couple numbers can fit for these extremely long ends. So the end was the long arrows, it was just the end of the arrow, not the beginning of the arrow. And I probably need to come back and add the same information to every spot on the arrow, because the numbers don't have to be in progressive order. So that's going to add a lot more information. So could this be 4, then 3, then 2, then 1? 4 plus 3 is 7, plus 2 is 8, 9, plus 1 is 10, so 4. Also not allowed. So 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. What? What is going on here? I might be wrong about this, come to think of it. I might be able to put a 4 here, then a 1 here, then a 1 here, and then a 2 here, which would get to 8. Yes, I could do that. So let's undo 4s. Could I do a 5 here, then a 1 here, then a 2 here, then a 1 here? Yeah. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 5 is also possible. Could I do a 6 here, then a 1 here, then a 2 here, then a 1 here? No, because that'd be 10. So we can only eliminate 6, 7, and 8. I knew that was going too well. So could we do a 7 here, and then a 1 here, and a 2 here? In that case, no. But I think these are still good. Alright. And I think we can still put some basic logic into the rest of these and say 9s can't be here. And then we can select this and this and this and this. And we can add 7s and 8s to that group. And then we can select all of this here. And we can add 6s, 7s, and 8s to that group. Just a lot of negative inferences. If 6, 7, 8 can't fit here, then could 6, 7, 8 fit in here and here? It's possible. I think you could have a 6 here and then a 1 here. Yeah, you could have up to even an 8 here. Now you can't have an 8 here and then 8 here, so eventually we'll find out more information. But at the moment I don't think we can. We can say 9s don't belong there. So we've got only 3 places now where a 9 could be in that spot, in that box. We have more places where a 9 could be in this box. 9 will eventually, I think, be our first digits that we actually settle into. But what is our first in? Well, let's think about this spot here. Whatever digit is shared here is going to be used by both. So if this was 8 and this was 7 and this was 1, you'd end up with 9 and 8. Okay. If this was 7 and this was 6, so that won't work either. This number has to be 2 away from this number, or vice versa. These two have to be two away from each other. So if this was 8 and this was 6 and this was 1, then you'd have 7 and 9 here, and that would fill in fine. Let's ask about lower numbers now. We're putting a 1 here. You know a 9 can't be here. Could an 8 be here with a 1 and 2? No. We can go back to that logic. 1, 2, 8. Doesn't work. Can 7 be here with a 1 and 2 to get 8 and 9? Yes, 7 could work. So, could an 8 be here in this spot with a 1 here and then a 7 here? Yeah, that also would work. I wonder here if there's something more. Maybe more in the reflection like, obviously, if we solve one of these, then we know the other one can't be the same number. Same number can't be here and here. Same number can't be here and here. But the crossing over element, I'm not sure I'm getting anything from that. If I am supposed to learn anything from the crossing over element, I would think it would be over here. So let's look at these and think. If this was 8 and this is 1, then this would be 9. That's fine. This could then be 7, and then, well, this one couldn't be 7. This one could be 6 and 2. No, it couldn't be 6 and 2. It would have to be like 5 and 2. No, because, yeah, 8, 1, 9, 5, 2, 7 would be the lowest. It could be otherwise. So I don't think that really tells me enough. If this was 1 and then this was 2 and this was 3, I mean, then 4 plus 5 could get 9. 4 and 5 would be the only option really between these two, because a 5 plus 6 would get too high of an 11. So if we can get one of these numbers right, we can solve the other one. Okay. With only 2's. In a lot of ways, it feels like these 2's are basically the same as these 2's, even though the arrows are pointing in different directions. I think the value of there are only so many possible combinations to make a number between 1 and 8 to get to 9 versus 1 and 2 to get to 3, and every combination in between to get every number in between. They're still in the same box, and they're going to be limited by that box. I think this does give us slightly different information, but weirdly, this doesn't eliminate the possibilities of a 9 being in this row, because the 9 could be here, and it doesn't eliminate the possibilities of a 9 being in this row, and these 4 9's don't guarantee, at least I don't see a logical reason why they would guarantee that a 9 has to be in this row. If I found a 9 in this row outside of these, just by basic Sudoku, that would be very helpful. Same is true down here. If I found a 6, 7, 8, or 9 in one of these spots, that'd be very helpful. And it absolutely would be just cheating to start testing in numbers while trying to solve a completely blank column on either side. I could pencil mark them all with every single number if necessary, but I think that just messes with the visuals of the puzzle and would distract my vision. Okay. And the only numbers in this box that are on this arrow is this one. And it is shared with this one. So if I put a 5 here, and then a 1 here, and then a 1 here. That would be 7, then a 2 here, then that would be 9. So 5 is doable. That then would make a 4 be here. Which then could be like a 1 here plus a 1 here, and that doesn't conflict with any of those other ones to get to 6, plus another 2 could be 7, 8, which then makes that 9, and that 9 doesn't conflict with that 9 at all. That then inherently would mean the 9 has to be here. But you could do lower numbers, or can you not do lower numbers? No, I don't think anything stops you from putting like a 1 here and a 2 here, and then you could do a 1 here, and then a 3 here, which would get you to 5, plus 1, 6, and then 1 here would be 2, and then you could put a 2 here for 4, and then you could put a 3 here for 7, and you could get to a 7. There may not be a way to get to a 6, actually. I might have, yeah, with these longer ones. 1 here, a 2 here is 3. No, a 1 here is 2. A 2 here is 4. And a 2 here would be 6. Yeah. So it could just be 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way down to 6. This one says it could be 4. I don't. Yeah, I guess 1 here and a 1 here could be 2, and then a 2 here could be 4. I'm just not really seeing the in on this. If the only option was like 6, 7, or 8, 9, and 8, 9, I would see something to that. What if we wanted to place 1s? Since we know a lot of things, none of these can be 1. Let's do an experiment here. So since we know nothing can be a 1 and nothing can be a 2, we have 5 spots here. So in that row, it could be 1, 2, but it also could be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. But we kind of know 4 of those numbers. We'll go. Then same thing, 1, 2s kind of have to be in this section. So I probably should have done an elevated 1, 2. But then the possibilities still are everything. probably was pointless to mark all of these as possibilities. I should have just left them blank. And then, yeah, we know in this column there needs to be some 1, 2s, and every other column there needs to be some 1, 2s. So I don't think that really helps me. Yeah, that's visually better to do it that way. But there's totally still a possibility that a 1, 2 could be here. And then a 1 or 2 could be here. And a 1 or 2 could be here. And frankly, there's a possibility 1 or 2 could be here, 1 or 2 could be here. We could mark this entire box, since we just have that and that. We could at least get to 5, 4. No, not 5, 4. It would be 6, 7, 8, and 9 as possibilities in those boxes. Since we know this can't be 6, 7, 8, and 9. But plenty of other possibilities. Just, yeah. Basically, that's pointless to mark those two. Unless I'm just going to fill in all the boxes. So 30 minutes in, this is as far as my logic I think takes me. There's a hope here that I could either get a smart hint that would highlight something as a strategy, or I'm probably just going to end up using the regular hint, because there's obviously a logical step, a logical leap and concept that I'm not grasping. So let's see what the smart hint says. As typical, smart hint can't generate a hint. Use the handwritten hints. So let's see what the handwritten hints say. The circles in row 1, column 6 and 7 must be either be 9, 8 or 9, 7 given the extent of the arrows. And this applies to row 9, column 3 and 2. Okay. So, why is that the case? How did they get it to 9, 8 or 9, 7 when I can see a possibility here of a 4, 5, or 6? Because maybe I'm not looking at everything logically. My thought here is that you could do a 1 here, and you could do a 1 here. Well, no, you could do 1 here, you could do 1 here, and you could do 2, and it could be a 4. Why is that logic wrong? Let's just mark it as the solution I'm thinking here. Let's see. Get that. See, to me, that looks doable. You have a 1 in this column and 1 in this row. You have a 1 in this column. You have a 1 in this row. Then you have a 2 in this column and a 2 in this row. So then on the longer spot, and maybe this is where this falls apart, the numbers would be like 2 here and then 2 here, which makes that not possible. And then 3 here, which would make that 7. And then 3 here, which would make that 10. So let's see if we can flip this around now. If this was, let's do the longer one first. This is 1, and this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 2, 2, 4, 5, 6, 6, which then would make that have to be 3, and then that would have to be 3, so 3, 6, and that would have to be 4. So it seems to me like the logic in this hint does hold true because of the crisscrossing nature here. Inherently, I could spend another 10 or 15 minutes justifying that by trying every single possible combination, but it does seem kind of obvious that the truth of it is one number crisscrossing will get bumped up above 9, which will then require you to reduce the minimum number that it could be. And honestly, now that I start to look at this, I probably can solve the whole thing. Yeah. Let's see if we can do that. I think we can pretty much go. This can't be 6 either, can it? 6, 1, 1. No, it could be. Anyways, let's go with 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 as possibilities. And then we'll add a 6 here as a possibility. And then if we were going to play around with 5 being here, and then 1 here, and then 1 here, and then 2, that would get to 9. And then the next thing we do is either a 2 here or here. So we'll just put a 2 here. Then we could do it. I can't do a 2 here. We could do a 3. And then a 4. And that would be 9 too. Which makes me suspect we can't have 5s. Yeah, I guess I just don't kind of want to brute force this, though. That's the problem with this, is just don't want to brute force every single possible combination. What I think this also weirdly breaks down to is that it can't be 9-8. And I don't know if I really follow that logic that far, but it probably does make sense. That there's no way to get to an 8. I mean, it can't be 7-8. I don't get that. I don't follow that logic either. Seems like if it can be 9-8 or 9-7, why can it not be 7-8? What is the math trick that prevents it from being 7-8? Can we target 7-8? Well, if we wanted an 8 on the longest number, let's see, 1 here would be 2 plus a 2 here would be 4, and then a 4 here could be 8. So let's mark this just so we can think that scenario through. Yeah, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 8. So now, why can this not be 7? What would the next biggest number need to be? You could put a 2 here, and then 3 here, and a 3 here. Hmm. 3 plus 6 is 7, 8. Which then I guess makes 2 8s at that point. And so that's the problem as to why you can't get a 7, 8. You just can't get the numbers low enough. That's all well and good, but it really does just push us to either trying a smart hint or just using the next hint and taking the next step. And I think we're just going to have to use the next hint and take the next step, because I'm not really following where that is going to really lead you to. Because 1, 2s are in row, let's see, 2, 3, and 4 on column, no, row 2, 3, and 4 on column 7. Because a 1/2 is here. Row 7 and 8 in column 7 must be a 3, 4 or 3, 5. So there's an absolute must that there is a 1, 2 either here, here, or here, which absolutely guarantees that there isn't a 1, 2 here, here, and here. So this may be the end, and I may not need to do anything more, because I can take, without reading any further in the hints, that same logic and say, if there's a 1, 2 that's an absolute must here, there must be a 1, 2 that's an absolute must here, which means this here, even though the design is slightly different, still probably has to be a 3, 4, or 5. It couldn't be it might be a 6, because you could have like a 1 and a 6 and get to a 7, and it might be a 7 because you could have a 1 and a 7 to get to an 8. It might even be an 8 because you could have a 1 and an 8 to get to a 9. But at the very least, we know it's not 9, which we'd already done that. So maybe you don't have as much information here. Okay. We probably shouldn't have looked at that as the next step. We probably should have maintained our focus here. Yeah, since we know 1, 2 can't be here, then the maximum this number can be, really, would be 6. No. Well, we know it can't be a 9. Eight plus 3 would be 11, so we know it can't be an 8. Seven plus 3 would give us 10, so we know it can't be a 7. But it does seem to me like it is possible that it could be 6 plus 3 equals 9. And so that gives you 1 through 6 as a possibility there. Does this one have to be 3, 4, or 5? Though we just know it can't be 1, 2, but in my logic here, nothing screams that this couldn't be a 6 plus a 3 adding up to a 9. or a 2 plus a, no, it can't be a 1 or a 2. 6 plus 3 equals 9. Then 4 plus 3 equals 7. Maybe you can't get to an 8. No, 5 plus 3 could equal 8. So 6 is a possibility there. Is there some more information we can get from these cubes? Well, we know they can't be 9s. I'm pretty sure we know they can't be 8s, because if this isn't 1 or 2, then it would have to be 33 here plus an 8 gets to 11. Same is true for that. So it can't be 8s. Can't be 7s. 7 plus 3 gets you to 10. Could be 6s. So, yeah. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 as a possibility there. We also know here that we don't know anything yet, but there would have to be a 1 and 2 in this column, and have to be a 1 and 2 in this column, a 1 and 2 in this column, this column, and this column, and 1 in this column and this column, and there would have to be a 1 specifically in this row. So if the 1 and 2 was here and the 1 and 2 was here, which it can't be both 1 and 2 here, it would have to get boiled down to a specific scenario where if this was the 1 and this is the 1, then the 1 could have to be one of these 3. Yeah, it still feels like there's far too many options. And so, let's continue reading this hint. So, we stopped at row 7 and 8. Column 7 must be 3, 4, or 3, 5. And I see a possibility of a 6 here, but there probably is a scenario that prevents a 6 from being here. Right. And now then row 2, 3, and 4 of column 7 must be 1, 2, or 4. Okay, so it's looping back on itself. It's saying that row 2, 3, and 4 here should have a 4 added. Because 3 has to be here, so 3 is eliminated as a possibility, and 4 has to be here. Well, it doesn't have to be here. Right. Yeah, 3 can be eliminated because the 3 must be here, and that's all we know. 4 is still a possibility here. But I don't see why. But I guess by other logic we've already figured out that 6 can't be here, 6 can't be here. I don't know if maybe 6 could be here. I'm not really eliminating the 6s as quickly as the hint seems to imply I should have. Row 1, column 6 and 7 are 9, 8. Okay. Why are we getting to that logical jump? Like, we've gotten it down to 7, 8, 9 through just trusting the first hint, and now the second hint is saying that we're eliminating 7. Why are we eliminating 7? Let's see. If this was 1, then 1, then 2, that's 4. And then this was 3, that's 7. Okay. And then if this was 2, then 4, because there would have been a 2 here, that's 6, and then it would have to be a 3, 2, 4, 3, 9, 7, 9. Why can't I do 7, 9? Well, I'm gonna have to overly mark things here. This was 1, and this is 1, and this is 2, and this is 2. 2, 4, 5, 6. It gets to a 6. Which that won't work for some reason. Then we could put can't put a 2 here or can't put a 2 here. So then you get like 3 and 3, which we know can't be a 3, so it would have to be 3 or 4, which gets you to 7 already. Then we could put a 3 here for a 10. Yeah, I just have hit a saturation point, I guess, of tolerance on these hints and these puzzles, so I just don't want to try every single scenario to figure out that, yes, there is some kind of memorized number of combinations, particularly since we've seen in other games where it should just be telling me the possible combinations with that combination calculator. I should be able to have that enabled in every puzzle, even if the combination calculator is actually useless. It would be logical to have the calculators and the tools always available, because then that requires for people to be smart enough to know when to use the right tool, instead of just thinking everything looks like a nail just because they only have a hammer. It could definitely be a major red herring if you're given combination calculators in certain Sudoku puzzle variants where it's not that helpful. But for the moment, I'm just gonna trust what it's saying here and eliminate the 7. I'm trusting that every single possible combination mathematically has been tested. Probably also means that this is not a 7, but whatever. We'll leave it at that. So we now know this is a 9-8 pair, which row then 7 and 8, column 7 are 3, 5 only. This 9-8 pair must make another combination. Yeah, the crux of it, this arrow Sudoku, is to know all the combinations, and so I'm probably going to end up just cheating the rest of this puzzle because I'm not willing to try and learn all the combinations, which either you would have to tell me them all to memorize and then regurgitate that information later, or I would have to brute force it. And I don't feel like making a whole episode of trying to brute force every single possible combination. I frankly would need to pull out a pencil and paper and just write down every single possible orientation combination here. But yeah, it says now that row 7 and 8, column 7 are 3, 5. So we'll trust it. We'll get rid of the 4s, and then we will also get rid of the 6 there, even though I never really did figure out why there couldn't be a 6 here. Let's see if we can figure that out. Yeah, I'm not sure why a 6 can't be here, and I'm not sure why a 6 can't be here. A 6 plus 5 wouldn't work. A 6 plus 3 would equal 9. 6 plus 3 equal 9. Then stops that from being a 9, but doesn't stop it from being an 8. 6 plus 3 equal 9 here. Doesn't stop a 5 plus 3 equaling 8 over there. And then it says row 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 of column 6. So 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 are now 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't follow either. How does this being a 3, 5 logically connect to this being 1, 2, 3, 4? No. It's not column 6. It would be. This makes more sense. This would be. So my assumption here is that the pattern once again boils down to this lock down this lock down this partially, that then lock down this, that then lock down this permanently, which then reduces the number of possible combinations down to 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Still heavily questioning why A6 can't go here. A lot of these variants let you take a bit of a break of the variant logic to do some basic Sudoku, and so far this one really has not let me do that. But I do have an opportunity now, if this is 8, 9, to remove the 8, 9 there, which then reduces the possibilities somewhat that this could be still 6 plus 1 to be 7. This could be 1 plus 5 to be 6. This could be 5 and 1 to be 6. And then this could be 8. 6 plus 1. To be 7. So the 7, 8 here should be able to go away. And I don't know if we found the same bit of information here. That this could be a 4 also. And then this at some point could only be 1, 2, 3, 4. Nothing really stops this from being a 5, so this could be a 4 plus 5 equals 9. This could still potentially be. I mean, we could probably eliminate the 3 from this one. Because if this is... Well, no, we can't, can we? Because this still could be 1, 2, and 3, and then this could be a 4. Yeah. And you know what I think I want to do? And this is probably indicative of what would happen if I was going to try and make Sudoku be just a default thing I live streamed. Is it would really go on forever, and I would have to take bathroom breaks, and I think that's what I want to do here. So I'm going to pause the recording, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. Unfortunately, I should have hit the pause button here to pause the timer, so now it says it's been 106 minutes, when honestly it's probably only been 60 minutes, so I added 40 minutes to the time there. Of course, in the break I took, I didn't spend any time thinking on this puzzle at all, and if anything, I just forgot the puzzle that we're here. I think the move is to just use another hint. Like, the core concepts here are still eluding me as far as how the patterns would work. And inherently, I'm just going to start scapegoating the concept of there's too many patterns and too many possible combinations for me to brute force and figure it out, to use as an excuse to just not solve the puzzle at all. Let's go to the next hint. It says now that row 9, column 3 and 4 are 7 and 9. So an 8, for some reason, row 1, column 6 and 7 are 9, 8. Row 7. You'd think that the last part of the hint, the sentence in the last hint, would directly connect to the first sentence in the next hint. Like row 7 and 8 must be 3, 4. What? Row 7 and 8, column 7. Yeah, here must be 3, 5. And then row 2, 3, and 4 of column 6 must be 1, 2, 3, 4. So the last thing the hint says is that this must be 1, 2, 3, 4. The next thing that this says is that this and this must be 9, 7. And I don't see any logical reason why that is the case. It doesn't make any sense at all why that would be the case. Unless there's just maybe some reflection that happens here that says, well, this has to be 9-7 because this is 8-9. Or, again, scapegoating the patterns, there's just something here that says, if this can't be 5, then maybe this has to be 5. You know, it can't be 6, 7, 8, or 9. And I think we're pretty sure this is 1, 2. So 5 plus 2 plus 1 plus 2. 5. No, it'd be 5 plus 1 plus 1 at the lowest, which would be 7 plus 2, which would be 8, 9, which would make that 9. Is it a case then that just because of these crossing overs, it can never be 8, 8? No. It can be 8. It can't be 8, 8. So before we go any further, let's just see if we can get a smart hint. Nope. Smart hint still being very unsmart and very unhelpful. So yeah, we're basically just cheating this puzzle, and maybe this is how the rest of the series is going to go, and maybe that will just be the ultimate admission on my part that I'm just not smart enough to do Sudoku puzzles, or at least cracking the cryptic high-level custom-made Sudoku puzzles. Yeah, let's just trust it. It says now that these two can't be 8. We'll agree with them. We'll say this has to be a 7 or a 9 pair. And then it says now that row 5, 6, and 7 here, 5, 6, 7, 8. So these, therefore, also 1, 2, 3, 4. So that same kind of logical leap. Yeah, I'm definitely missing some middle steps here, but in the end, it seems like it has just confirmed that 1, 2, 3, 4 are really the only options here. And maybe that is just a case that no matter what numbers you have, if you have 4 digits, you're going to come out with an odd number, and you just can't come out with an even number. Which, that's an interesting thought. Let's see if there's any possibility of that being true. A 1 here, a 1 here, and then a 2 here would be 4. So that wouldn't work. A 1 here, a 1 here, a 4 here, and the 2 here, though, would work. No. But there must be some other pattern as to why 1 plus 1 plus 4 to 6 to 7, 8 here stops that from being 8. And then I guess this is saying that somehow in that leap of logic, we've also determined that these also can be 3. Now, I will have to say, I don't like that process. I don't like the idea of having to deductively reason or that 1 and 2 are a possibility without also in the same breath reasoning whether 3 could be a possibility, 4 could be a possibility, 5 could be a possibility. If I am going to have to solve puzzles like that, I'd rather just mark all the numbers and then remove numbers when we find out that they can't be the case, or elevate the numbers if they have a higher chance of being a possibility. Does this take me in any further direction? Well, if we're certain that there has to be a 1 and a 2 and a 3 here. And I guess part of the question might come from, do all the numbers on an arrow line have to be different numbers? Because if they did have to be different numbers, that would help actually quite a bit. But by basic Sudoku, we can say these aren't 3 anymore. But does that 100% guarantee that this is a 3? No. You still could easily have a 3 in any of these columns. We could, by basic Sudoku, eliminate these 7s and 9s now. And then that means something. And we could also eliminate the 1. No, we can't eliminate the 1 here. But we could eliminate the... If this has to be 3, 5, then we know this is 8. If we know it's not, can't have a 4 here, we can eliminate that 4. And if we can't have a 3 here, then we eliminate that 3. Can't have a 5 here, we eliminate that 5. And we can't have a 3, 3, we eliminate that 6. Let's see if I'm right about that. Yes. So that's an 8. Alright. Then a 1 and a 3 could be a 4, but this one can't be 3. Nope, that's not what I meant to do. The lowest number here could be 1 and 3 and 4. I think we could probably get to a 5 in a different way, and we can get to a 6. And I question whether we couldn't have gotten to a 7, 8, and 9, but we already have a 7 and a 9 here, and we got the 8 here. And ignoring all of that, we now have a 9 having to be here, and an 8 having to be here. And now we finally, 60 minutes in, just subtract 40 from this, roughly 60 minutes in, we finally have the n we needed to make a little bit of progress here. There's still some limitations, I would say. I don't think it's worth it to just like mark the possibilities here. If we could fill out what this is, then we might know that a 9 is here, and then that might limit our 9s here, but we're probably filling in these last 2 boxes at the very last spot. So, yeah. You could fill in all the possibilities down here in this row also. Is there a possibility that there's an 8 here? Yes. If we found out that there wasn't an 8 here, there's still a possibility that there would be an 8 here and an 8 here, but even if we could get rid of the 8 here, then we know that the 8 is here. Which, wait a minute, let's ask that question. If an 8 can't be here, and an 8 can't be here, and an 8 can't be here, then we know the 8 has to be here. And if an 8 can't be here and an 8 can't be here, then this has to be an 8. Interesting. Which means one of those has to be an 8. Okay. And see if we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 plus 7 still would get us to an 8. I guess the question then, we could probably mark these as a triple, and that might actually help, because if we can't have a 5, if somehow in that logic I skipped we can't have a 5 in any of these, then we know that 5 is a possibility. If we can't have a 7, we can have a 7 here though. We could, so 7's a possibility but not guaranteed, 9's a possibility but not guaranteed. And then there's going to be some number 1, 2, 3, 4 in a quadruple here. There's one number we're missing. I question how are we missing one number? Should be 7, 9, 5, and possibly 6. Yeah, at some point we eliminated the 6 here as a possibility too. That's also just part of what I missed. Okay. 5, 6, 7, 9. Quadruple there. If we can get that down to a triple, then we know potentially what numbers might have to be in this section. Which maybe 5, 6, 7, 9. Also, there's going to be a couple numbers here extra. It might be worth it to mark this, but we don't really have a lot of information here. It seems like 5, 6, 7, and 9 are also possible there, with some more possibilities. 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And then 5, 6, 7, 9. There. Yeah, and that's probably a good example of where marking numbers make sense when you only have like 4 options and you've logically deduced half of the numbers out. If I could get rid of the 6 here, then we know this is a 4, 5, and then this would have to be a 6. If I could get rid of the 5, 6, then we know this is a 4. Although, frankly, anything could be a 7. Let's see. We do have a 4, 5, 6 triple here. If these literally are the only options, if you can't be 7, if you can't be 8, and if you can't be 9, and these have to be 1, 2, 3, and this can't be 8, then doesn't this have to be 8? Let's gamble a little bit and just mark it as an 8. It is. Yeah. That was the only option for an 8 in that row. Inherently that means this is one of these is an 8. So we're breaking into these edges earlier than I thought I would. And the possibility here, I think, is too high to really mark this in, because it does feel like if this is 1, 2, 3, that triple is done. If this is 4, 5, and 6, it's possible, but not guaranteed. It seems like your options would still be probably 4, 5, 6, 7, and 9 in that spot. Eventually we would boil it down more. This 8 really doesn't eliminate any possibilities here. And I don't think running the calculation here and running the calculation here is the problem. This is 4, 5, or 6. That doesn't really tell me anything. And this number being next to this number or this number doesn't, I think, tell me anything. So I don't know what the next step would be. And we still can't generate a smart hint. So I think the next step is to have to lean back onto hints. And hopefully, my hope is that at some point a handwritten hint will tell me something that will teach me the secret to solving this puzzle, this concept, what the gimmick is, if there is only one gimmick. This 3 doesn't mean anything. Not yet, at least. Let's just move on. It says row 9, column 8. Must be a 4-6. So again, I'm not seeing the leap here. Why can it not be 5? Why can this not be 2 plus 3 to equal 5? What has prevented this from being a 2? Like a 1-2 could be here, and then a 1-2 could be here, and then a 1-2 could be in the middle here. I don't see anything that says that wouldn't work. Or this could be a 2. Yeah, let's not talk on terms of 1-2, let's just talk on terms of 2s. A 2 could be here, a 2 could be here, and then a 2 could be here. Yeah, I haven't seen anything that guarantees a 2 has to be in this column. Well, wait a minute. Yes, there are. If this is 1, 2, 4 is the only options, then a 2 must be in this column. Which means then for this column here, the 2 could be here though, and then the 2 could be also over here to eliminate that, but a 2 could be here, and a 2 could be here and eliminate that, and that still feels like that should be a 2. So I'm just not getting it. Like, I really wish these hints had videos to explain things better, or a reference to a specific reason, or a more info button. I'd like to see step-by-step recorded actions to highlight why certain situations are the way they are. And I suppose if there were more people interested in Sudoku and buying Sudoku games, I would hope that they could use that extra income to make a more polished product that would have some tutorial makers in the middle there. Somebody who would take Cracking the Cryptic's live streams and then script his actions into hints better and highlight and make actual movements of the application to show you why this is the case. But since we don't have that, all I can do is, I guess, just believe them. For some reason, this can't be a 5, which makes this a 4-6, which doesn't really change anything else by basic Sudoku. If this is a 4-6, we can go ahead and say, well, a 1 and a 3 and a 3 is still viable, a 1 and a 5 is still viable, but a 2 and a 3 is not viable, so we can get rid of the 2s. a 5 and a 3 is not viable, and a 6 and a 6 is not viable. The next step, though, is just to read the next part of the hint, because we're still just not really following. It says row 7, column 8. That's right, where we are. Must be a 1. Okay. I do see some logic here I missed. Once we had locked this down to an 8, which I guess I did prematurely and did on my own, that means one of these has to be a 3, so that can't be a 3. Okay. And then 1 and 5 still feels like it could be a 6. And 4 and 3 can't be a 7 because there's a 7 here. 4 and 5 can't be a 9 because there's a 9 here. So 4 is out as a possibility. Which then gives you 1 and 3 to be a 4, or 1 and 5 to be a 6. That does give me a 1. Yep. So we did get to that point. And then it says 8 must be placed. 8 now can be placed in column 4. Which we jumped the gun there, and the already placed that. Okay. So does this one help me in any further direction? I don't think it does. It eliminates a 1 possibility here. But I think we would have to eliminate some more possibilities. It eliminates the 1 possibility here as far as one of these numbers being a 1, 2, and one of these numbers being a 1, 2. We now know that one of these numbers is 1. But we don't know for certain which of those numbers, so it could be the 1 is here, which would eliminate this, or it could be the 1 is here and it eliminates that. And we don't have really anything marked where enough. We're just a basic Sudoku brute forcing makes sense. This 8 can be eliminated here. I guess that helps a little bit. Narrow it down. If there was a 9 here, then there couldn't be a 9 here. And since there can't be a 9 here, we know then that this isn't 9, which maybe that lowers the possibility a little bit. What? It is a 9. So why was my logic flawed there? If there was a 9 here, then there can't be a 9 here. Yeah. Which that doesn't mean anything at all. Because if there was a 9 here, there still could be a 9 here, or here, or here, or here. Yeah. And we did cheat to figure out that that was a 9. And certainly, I don't want to cheat in that way. I would rather just cheat with the hints. So, once again though, there's no next step. Let's just look at the hint, or I don't see the next step at least. The hint next step is that row 2 and row 3 are column 3 or at least 4 or 5, because row 1, column 2 and 3 are at most 6, 7. I don't even follow how that's written, how that would make sense. That these two squares have to be a minimum number because these numbers have a maximum number. I don't think that's written written well. It probably is accurate to what it's saying, but I just don't think that's written well. Because theoretically, if there wasn't an 8, 9 here, then that wouldn't change anything. And if these two, yeah, if this was 8, then these still could probably be 4 and 5. So either they are 5, 7 or 6, 7. Not following this either. Row 1, column 2 and 3 are at most 6, 7. We've got that. Which means row 2, column 3. Row 2 and 3, column 3 are at least 4, 5. Which we've got that. But rows 1, column 2 and 3 which makes them 5 or 7. Why was I probably just didn't add 7 to this. That probably was just a possibility always. That it could have been 4, 5, 6 or 7. And I probably just made a mistake by marking 4, 5, and 6, and not just adding every possibility at that time. And I've got to train myself to not make those mistakes. The problem here is probably how I'm labeling things too, because they want me to label things, I guess, more like this, where it would be 5, 7 up here, and then not have 5, 7 here. Fours somehow are getting left out. They're saying I should mark it 5, 7 or 6, 7 and get rid of the 4s. So what was the logic that got rid of the 4s? I just don't follow it. And see, if I'm not following the logic, I can't even really confirm one way or another if the hint is correct. For all I know, we've already seen it 2 other times that handwritten hints were just wrong. The number was wrong, the column was wrong. Yeah. If this has to be at least 4 or 5, I don't follow this at all. So this is 5, 7 or 6, 7 making a triple somehow with this block, which how does that help at all? I guess maybe it makes a triple in the sense that it's all blocking this number. Can't be a 9. So I do see a new logical concept here, in that you have a triple where 2 are in a row one way, and then 1 is in a, well, 2 are in a column one way, and 1 is in a row this way. Thus, in this one specific intersection point, now we can see 6, 7, and 5, 7 should all be removed, so that this should be 4. Which, even if that was the case, then 4 plus what? Like, what number plus this number? No, I think it actually is. Going to work the opposite direction. It's going to have to be that either 6, 7, or 6, 7, or 5 is here, because this number has to be bigger than this. I think this has to be 7, and then if this has to be 7, that eliminates a lot of possibilities, making this a 5, 6, and making this a 5, 6. But the question before we get to that point is, how do we know that this is either a 5, 7 or a 6, 7? What could it also be? I mean, this isn't actually paired with anything. The options really should be 5, 6, 7, or 9, and then the 9 would have been eliminated. So this logic may only work for arrow Sudoku. Here. Let's think about the other possibility here on this intersection point before we just mark this as a 7. If this was a 6 plus 1, that has to be a 7. If this somehow was a 5 plus 1, it could be a 6. Which is also a possibility. But there's no way this is going to be a 4 or 5. Which then that makes this a 6, 7 pair. Or a 5, 7 still. Regardless, if this is a 6 and then this was 5 plus 1 and then this was 7, could this be a 6? No, but it could be a 5. So I don't know if there's more patterns here. So this could be 6 plus 1 to get to 7. And then if this was 6 plus 1 and 7, this couldn't be a 7, so it could be then a 5. And then this could be a 6, or this could be a 5. If this was a 5 plus 1 to get to 6, then this could be 7. And then if this was 6, this could be 7 or 5. So that does make it feel like that's the only possible option. And then maybe instead of marking it this way, we should just go back to marking it this way. But that is pretty much the end of the hint at that point. And certainly this is a very different kind of Y-wing triple. It's what it has been called in the past, instead of a linear triple in a line. And I guess maybe there's no guarantee that 5 is in any of this column, but there's a decent guarantee that 6 and 7 is not here. So let's assume that's right and remove that. Not that it really helps that much. Next hint, we're already up to hint 5. Well, the danger here is I'm going to hit hint 6, and then there will be no more hints. And either at that point, I just won't have the capability of solving the puzzle, and will potentially just should brute force it at that point if I'm totally out of ideas, or give up. Or it might be a case that we have a whole bunch of written hints because this is an incredibly difficult puzzle. These puzzles do seem to be fairly accurate in their difficulty ratings. It says if row 1, column 2 and 3 were 7 and 5, then row 2 and 3, column 3 could not be filled. Let's ask this question. I've already kind of determined that this can't be a 5, but if this was 5 or 7, then 7 here would be 2 plus 5, which then that couldn't be a 5. And maybe we don't need to go any further than that. If this was 7 and 5, then 1 and 4, we can't put a 4 here seemingly. So that doesn't seem like that would work either. So does that inherently mean 7 and 5 is just not an option? Or am I really scraping the bottom of the barrel here as far as patterns, and I'm just gonna have to look at every pattern? Maybe the hint here is, well, this can't be 7 and 5. Could this be 3 and 6? Well, let's just look at this. There's no way, if this is 5, 6, or 7, that this is going to be 3, 4, or 5. This could be a 5, 1 to get to a 7. So, without really following the instructions on this hint, I've gotten down to a 6, 7 pair. Okay. Then if that is accurate, we can test this by just marking that as a 5. And that seems like that is accurate. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and just mark this, and this as being possibly 1, 2, 3, and 4. while we're at it, let's go ahead and just get rid of all the upper numbers, because the same logic that got those 1s and 2s in those spots is now just being boiled down to more basic pencil marks. 1, 2, 3, and 4 being in those spots doesn't mean anything at the moment, though maybe 5s overall mean something. Is there some possibility that there wouldn't be a 5 in this section? No. Could it possibly be that the 5 can't be here? Not as far as I can tell. So if this is 6, then it would be 5 and 1. If this is 7, then I guess neither one of those can be 7. So we now have narrowed this down to a 5-6 pair. This is crazy because the logic keeps circling back on itself to reduce one more possibility. So that means that's 6. That means that's 7. That means this has to be 5, 2. Wait. But then that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. I do think this is 5, but I guess I'm wrong. The 1, 2, 3 here, triple, stops this from being 2. But I, at some point, jumped the gun, or was told to jump the gun. Or at least it was the hints implied to jump the gun, to remove a 4 as a possibility. When 4 does seem like it's still a possibility. Now, 6 can't be a possibility here. And 1, 2, 3 can't be a possibility. Right. So to get to 7, this can only be 2 or 3. And to get to 6, this can only be 2 or 1. Does that mean one of these two have to be 2? Or does that make another pattern that just needs to be considered here? Let's see. 1 plus 5 would make this have to be 4 and this have to be 3. That's fine. But then 2 plus 4 would have to make this be 5 and 2, which that is fine too. So all 4 of these crisscrossing pieces now at this point, probably 110 minutes into this puzzle, all 4 of these pieces do form some kind of synergy, which will for the first time use a slash color to imply something there. Although at this point I'm not sure that this triple means anything anymore, so we might as well just get rid of that. And this puzzle doesn't solve the same way. If we know that there's a 4 and 5 here, and we think that's the only options. We can remove the 4 here, and a 1 in 3 possibility is still here, so that doesn't tell me much. 8, 9 are probably here. We can mark those. 8 and 9 as we couldn't mark 4 or 5, we couldn't mark 6 or 7, and we could mark 3, 2, 1 if we wanted to, but I guess for safety's sake we'll mark those. If everything else just fell into place, we would have this. But that's not the case yet. And then the 6, 7, 9 here implies that the 6 has to be in one of these, which I guess eliminates the 6 from being here. Mark that. I don't think that gets us any further. However, there might be a struggle to find where to place a 6 in this column completely. But yeah, I question if there is another logical step that can be made. If it is a logical step that can be made, it's based off of thinking one very specific way. I guess we would know that there's probably a 6 in one of these 4 cubes. And if there's a 7 here, and is it a possibility that the 7 could be here? I think I have to mark that as being possibly a 7. Which then hurts, because there could be a 7 here, or a 7 here, or a 7 in any of these columns. If I'd somehow mathematically or logically eliminated this 7. 8, 8, 8. Then 9s. We can look at 9s here. Just see if anything's changed with the 9s. Nope. So I don't think just brute force basic Sudoku rules are going to help us. We could perhaps go back to the basic Sudoku rules to just figure out if maybe there was some other rule here to help. We still cannot generate a single smart int, so I think we just have to follow hint number 7 now. It says row 9, column 4 is the same as row 6, column 6. What in the world are you saying here? Oh. Row 9, column 4 is here. row 6, column 6 is here. I have no idea why you're saying it's the same. A lot of times it feels like they should use certain key phrases like consider or looking at. Because in no way is this the same. The same thing. They're in different places. They have different. They both have an 8 pressing down on them, eliminating the 8 possibility. But this one's in an arrow that's pointing into a number. At this point, this is in a much shorter arrow pointing into a number this way. It says if this was 7, if this was a 7, what does that mean? 7 would be here, 7 would be here, and then there would be a 7 in this column. That seems acceptable to me. 7 here, can't be 7 here. Then row 6, column 7 would be 6. What in the heck are you even saying? Why would that be 6? Just because. Let's go and answer these questions. What numbers can be in this spot? I guess we'll just have to mark everything. It can't be a 1, 2, 4, and it can't be a 3, and it can't be a 5. So the options would be 6, 7, 8. No 8 because we've got 9 here and then 8, 9 there. So I guess maybe I should have filled that in earlier, and maybe I would have not needed to use so many hints if I had just brute force filled in the puzzle. I think that will be my next desperation move. With that filled in, it says if this is a 7, then this would be a 6. Okay. And then row 6, column 5 here. Row 6, column 5, this one. Would be a 5. Why would that be a 5? Let's just mark all the possibilities here. This could be a 7. This could be a 6. Can't be an 8. Could be a 5. Could it be a 4? I mean, when you have like 4 boxes that say 1, 2, 3, 4 in them, that eliminates probably 1, 2, 3, 4 and a quadruple. So 5, 6, 7, 8, and the possibility of 9 here. But not a 9 here for some reason. Not a 9 here for some reason. What was the reason that I determined these couldn't be 9s? Because of the solutions to the puzzles here. The arrow says this can't be a 9. You can't have 9 plus something equal 8. You can't have 9 plus 1 equal 9. Which just pretty much means this has to be a 9. But we're not 100% certain on that. This still could be 9 here. Right. Back to what the hint was saying though. Saying consider all of these, but ignore this for the start. It's saying if this was a 7, then this would be a 6. That would make a 6-7 pair, which would make this 5. And then 5 plus 1 still would add up to 6, so that's fine. but then it would make row 4, column 5, 6. I don't know why that's the case. Which seems like that has already been determined can't be a 6. 7, 6 here in this box. 5. Why is this saying consider this to be a 6? Which then would make row 4, column 5, 6. Needing both row 5 where am I? Row 4 column 5 would make this 6. Okay, that makes more sense. So 7, 6, 5, 6. Needing both in the case of row 5, column 4, and 6 to be 2. Wow. So a bunch of steps had to happen here, and I would have never seen this solution had I not filled in this and these possibilities. And even at that, I'm still not really seeing the solution on that aspect, because I'm not following why this, the first part here, row 9 column 4, is the same as row 6 column 6. Yeah, I'm not following that logic at all. And I don't even see why you need to consider that. The indication to me tells me to say this is 9. Is there some more things I can do before this point? If we have a quadruple of 1, 2, 3, 4, then we know 3 and 4 are not possibilities here. If we have a quadruple here of 5, if we have 5, 6, 7, 9 3 times, that doesn't tell me anything. Once I solve one of these, I'll probably get closer to solving the rest of these. 1 plus 5 can give us 6, but a 4 doesn't seem viable in this spot. But I don't see a real reason why a 4 couldn't be viable in this spot. Just, it's not viable in this spot because we already have a 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrant here. It's probably, it's worth just marking that. This is doing a lot of pairing, and that's probably what's confusing me a lot on this too. It's just maybe mark a decent amount of this to show what's really going on here. Just so much of this going on. And part of the problem with this interface too still is that it boils down to several colors I don't want to select. This blue is totally useless because it's too close to the blue when you have an area of influence and causes mental confusion there. Let's see. But yeah, we've got quadruples happening, we've got triples happening galore. Okay. So what stops this from being a 4? Because of the quadruples here, which means this has to be a 5 here, which means this can't be a 5. So then you're at a 6, 7, 9 spot. And then the hint tells me that 7 isn't a possibility. So then the question, I guess, would come down to, is 6 a possibility? If I did a 6 here, then we could do 7. Then this would be 5. Then I think if we get back to 5, that makes that 6. Nope. That would make this 7. If this is 7, then this is 7. I think. Which is 1. So 5 plus 2 plus 1. So it does seem like 6 works, and 6 is probably the answer. Let's ask about 9 though. If this is 9, then that doesn't change anything. This could be a 6 or 7, and this could be a 5, 6, or 7, and this number can be 4, 3, 2, or 1, which doesn't change anything, which doesn't change anything. So 9 as a possibility eliminates a pure solution here. We can, I guess, get rid of 7 since we walked that mental path. And if we get rid of 7, then it doesn't really change anything. There's still some combination of these numbers that would add up to 9. Whether that's a 2 and 7, or 3 and 6, or 4 and a 5. And 1 and 5 gets 6. If we find the other 6, then we know what the solution is to a lot of the other things. So this all then is just going to boil down to, can we prove that this is not 9? Which seems like a tall order, since you have 1, 2, 3, 4 here, and then 5, 6, 7, and 9 here. 9. If this was 9, any of these numbers could still work fine, and it wouldn't run into any problems with this square. Yeah. If this is 9, this could be 7, this could be 2, then that would give you 1, 3, or 4 as an option here, and 1, 3, or 4 as an option here. Hmm. 9 plus 7 plus 2 eliminates this 2. which would just give you then 1, 3, 4. You just then would have a triple of 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, and 1, 3, 4 at that spot, and I don't think you can do anything further. So to me, it does scream that there is yet another pattern I'm missing. Although maybe it's not a pattern this time. Maybe it is just a flaw in logic. We do know that a 5 must be in this section, which maybe that means something. If this wasn't 5 and this wasn't 5, though, you have this extra spot in the middle where 5 could go. Yeah. Until we could determine that. This 6-7 pair isn't creating some kind of Y-wing triplicate, I don't think. Not yet, at least, if one of these numbers was reduced. Well, wait a minute, let's look at and consider these numbers here. If this was 9, then in this box you would have 5, 6, 7, which would make that 9. That works. If this box was 6, you would have 5, 7, and 9 triplicate, which would eliminate this as a possibility and wouldn't work. So this can't be 6. This has to be 9. Okay. Which 5, 6, 7 here probably justifies filling this in now. And that these could be 9. It could be 8. It could be 7. Not 7. It can't be 6. It can't be 5. It could be 4. It could be 3. They could be 2. And they could be 1. I feel like this elevated numbers of the 1, 2 is weak enough that it's just more beneficial to get rid of that. Probably is the same case here. Since we now that's not 1 and 2. Now 1 still could be here. Okay. With 9, we can eliminate 1 as a possibility. And 2 is still a possibility because 2 plus 7 could be 9. 3 plus 6 could be a possibility. And 4 plus 5 could be a possibility. Which, if that gets that down to a 2, 3, 4 instead of a 1, 2, 3, 4, I don't think that may change too much. Now, if I was to believe the argument at the beginning here that says row 9 column 4 is the same as row 6 column 6, then my solution would be to just jump the gun and mark that as a 9. But I don't follow reasoning there. This 6, 7, 9 here still feels like a possibility. You know, a 6 has to be here if this is right, and you can't have a 6 here, and you can't have a 6 here. We know nothing else otherwise. Is there possibly anything else we've learned? If I was to try and fill in like these blocks here, I think I'd put every number between 1 and 8 there, or 1 and 7, I guess. I don't think that would help me much. Yeah, I could try and fill in this. Just do every single number. And then I can remove the 7s from there. I can remove the 8s from those. I can remove the 9s from those. And that may be highlighting in a situation where it makes a lot of sense to not to fill in the boxes earlier, so that when I did fill this in as a 7 or this in as an 8, it would just automatically reduce the numbers. It definitely is a trade-off. It's probably just going to be a matter of how you like to solve your puzzles, whether you want to mark in the boxes and pencil mark the boxes to begin with, or if you want to do it during the process to leave more blank spots to not visually focus on the fact that something is filled in. And I still wish that there was a possibility in a way to just start all the puzzles with every possibility filled in and eliminate possibilities. I certainly could spend the extra 5 minutes at the beginning of each puzzle doing that. It really wouldn't even be that hard, because you could just, draw a selection box around all of the boxes and fill them all in. So next time we see a simple puzzle, I think I might try it that way. Or what seems like a simple puzzle, we may just try it that way. But yeah, we can eliminate that possibility by basic Sudoku. If we eliminated the one possibility here, then we'd know the one is here. If we eliminate the one possibility here, we'd know the one is here. I do have a real concern here that what we're going to realize is that we're going to have to look at just a pattern going around all of these and just try every single combination. And certainly having so many background highlighted sections, it's also visually distracting. Guess we can eliminate the 8 from this spot there. And that does create a situation where the 8 needs to be in these two, and then a number specifically needs to be here, which is the 5. No, not the 5. No, I have no idea. There is no number there. I thought there was. Maybe there was previously. I don't think 9s are helping, but we can say also That's not 9. So I have two possibilities to either go for the next hint and just follow down the path of all the hints, or consider some of these scenarios. Since we have a 7-9 pair here, and let's consider this scenario to see if there is maybe a logical reason why this all matches up and why they say this piece is the same as this piece. Because I'm still very confused about that. So, if this was 9, then 3 plus 2 would be 5, plus 1 would be 6, plus 1 would be 7. So we would need it to be plus 1 to be 6, and then plus 3 to be 9. So that scenario doesn't work. Which ones am I really looking at? I'm looking at these. Let's highlight these. 9 plus 1 plus 2 plus 1 is 4. 4 plus 4 only gets you to 8 if it's 9. Okay. 2 plus 2 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. Plus 1 is 6. That doesn't work either. 3 plus 2. 2 plus 1 plus 1 is 7. So either one specific combination makes this 7, or that is that. I probably shouldn't be considering the longer chain here as much as I should be considering the shorter chain. 4 plus 2 plus 2 is 8. But 8 can't be the answer. 4 plus 2 plus 3 is 9. 3 plus, yeah, let's just go through every single number, I guess. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2, or plus 3 is 9. 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 4 is 8, so maybe 2, but it could be 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 4 is 9. 1 can't be 1 here, so it'd be either 2 or 3, so 3 or 4. And then to get from 3 or 4 to 7, you can do that with a 4, but with a 9, 3 or 4 can't get to a 9. So it seems like the 1 is unlikely, but it also definitely seems like there's just no solution here. Let's just mark in the rest of the options here. Every single possible combination in those two boxes. And then we'll come back, remove the 9 here, and then every single combination, I guess, in this box. Then we can remove the 1 here, then Move the 7, the 8, and the 9 here since we have a 7-9 pair in that spot. And then we can also remove the 3 and the 5 from that spot. We can remove the 6 and the 7 from that spot. Seems like we have a triple here of 1, 2, and 4. It may be true, but not with that 3. Don't know for certain. And I forgot to mark in these, which we want that just fill in. And can we do anything more than that? Let's go ahead and fill in these, I guess. We can remove the 5s, and we can remove the 8s. I guess we can remove 6s if we believe that 6s can't be here. Not sure I really believe that, and that might be a mistake. Okay. So spending the extra time filling in possibilities, if it was going to be helpful, would have to be helpful via this like brute force Sudoku solving possibilities. And yeah, this might eliminate some possibilities. We would need a specific pair or triple in a specific box to make a lot of progress. Yeah, without that extra progress, the results here are going to be fairly lackluster. This could be 7 or 9, so we don't know which. In a lot of ways, this is just reasserting things we had already determined, like that 8 has to be here, here, or here, which probably means this can't be an 8, but it doesn't even matter because this tells me that can't be an 8. Perhaps it would be better if the game popped up a warning or a notification when you marked something as a possibility after it already should have been obvious that it wasn't a possibility, such as adding an 8 in this box when R1 had already been marked as having an 8, or marking an 8 in this box when there's already an 8 there. If there's a 9 here, then I don't think that really tells us anything right now. If there was a 9 here, then there'd have to be a 9 here. Should that make some sense? Yeah, but I'm still just banging my head against this wall with the arrow Sudoku logic. It's too far away from classic Sudoku, really. At least at this level of difficulty. A more simplistic arrow Sudoku game, I'm sure, would give me a lot more starting numbers instead of 0, and then with those extra starting numbers, the arrow would then just be a new way of thinking to help you learn a few more numbers. But when it is the only way of thinking, and you don't really understand it and all its patterns, you are not given a second option. And in non-puzzle games, certainly it is ideal if you do make a video game that sometimes lets you go and do something else, whether it's just blacksmithing in Skyrim or mining or something other than the basic gameplay mechanic of running around killing things in Skyrim or talking to people, which arguably more than half of Skyrim is actually a interactive visual novel experience just done in a 3D Bethesda visual style. Yeah, I don't know what you could do for a puzzle game, though, as far as a side mission. We have seen a couple of programming puzzle games have just some basic Klondike solitaire as an option, so if you get bored, you can just play solitaire or some other kind of distracting game, but even that is a little too close to a Sudoku puzzle. I don't know what you could suggest for a Sudoku game. The real suggestion almost certainly is just to take a break and come back a week later. And yeah, certainly I am pre-recording this footage in a crazy way in which I'm trying to do multiple Sudokus in a day. Very hard multiple Sudokus. If I was doing just easy ones, I could probably do 30 or 40 in a day. We've got to go to the next hint, though. There's no more stalling. It can happen. The 7 in row 9, column 3. Okay. This one, row 9, column 3, would resolve 1, row 1, column 3. In what way? In its arrow. I mean, the first part of this hint, and this is the last hint, so we're out of hints now. It does just kind of feel like wishful thinking. It's saying that a 7 here then resolves this. How does it resolve this? I don't get it. It feels like there's just several variants that can happen here. Like a 7 here would let this be a 2 or 3, which then to get to 7 from 2 or 3, I could use a combination of numbers here that are more than 1. But in none of these combinations of numbers does it actually affect this. 7 here resolves this here. We'd already figured out this is a 6. To get this to be a 6, you need either a 1 or a 5 or a 2 or 4. A 7 here doesn't change that at all. we'd already seen this triplicate to eliminate the possibility of a 2 being here, or 3 being here, or a 1 being here. Just how we got it down to 4, 5. A 7 here would eliminate a 7 being here, which then still means it could be, well, this one can't be a 4, 5. We can start with that because we have a 4, 5 pair here. A 7 here makes this a 9, which I don't think changes anything else. Maybe I'm not thinking everything fully through. Again, I'm just gonna scapegoat a pattern here, and let's just see if we can evaluate this pattern. 7. Well, what we really need to do is eliminate the 9s. So let's look at the 9s on this. Let's actually mark the other one because that'll just make it easier to see. A 9 here plus a 2 or 3 would make a 7 or 6. So then we have to make up 7 or 6 from these combinations, which a 2 and a 4 here to get to 6, and then a 3 here makes sense. Makes it seem like a 9 could still work. And I don't even want to read any more hints, any more of the hints at the moment, because just struggling with this. I mean, it really has just been a constant struggle with these long arrows, and these long arrows felt like they would be the first things that would solve. I desperately need just like a transparency to write over this and say, well, if this was 1 and this was 1 and this was 4 and then this was 6, this was 3, could you get to a 7? Yes. Could you get to a 9 some other way? Yes. But then what would be the combination of these interacting with those? I just don't know. I just do not know how you make this combination work, or how you evaluate this part of the puzzle. It seems just completely over my head. 7 in row 9, column 3. Let's just trust it. Let's just mark it as 7. If we do nothing else and just take it as a hint where we cheated there, then fine. Then we know that's 9, which we should have already known that wasn't 9. That makes this 9. Okay. By basic brute force Sudoku, I don't think we can do anything more. So just trusting that information and getting to 7, 9 gets me to this point, which with that number of hints, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it seems like you're getting close enough where you could just solve it by basic Sudoku. But I kind of need like 5 more hints numbers locked in before that would happen. The fact that there's 2 spots that could be 1 here and 2 spots that could be 1 here doesn't mean anything. I just don't see how this... Well, wait a minute. Maybe I do see it now. Maybe this has been here the whole time, hasn't it? No, it's still a possibility that this could be 2 and this could be 3, and then the 1 would be over here. You know, between these two that there aren't a 2, so we can eliminate that as a possibility, but that's all we can really eliminate, which then still doesn't really tell me anything other than there's not a 2 in any of these. But that still isn't really guaranteeing anything. This shorter one is a 7. So if this was, let's see, this one was 11, and then this was, I mean, if this was 1 and this was 2, that's 3, plus 3 would be 6, so probably can't be 1 here. Let's just brute force, but it could be 1 there. If this was 4, and then, well, no, wait a minute. If this was 4 and then this was 3, then this can't be 1. If this was 4, then this was 2, and then that would be 1. 1 is a possibility. Yeah, I'm just gonna jump to the next hint. Like, we just have to jump over and skip this part. And it's not like we can click to the next hint anyway, so let's just read the next sentence. A 3-2 can be placed in row 2 in the... So where? Where could a 3-2 be placed? 3 and 2 can apparently be placed in this, in row 2. After we had solved this part. So it's very much the case you have to solve the first sentence first. And I'm probably just going to have to brute force this and just put a 2 here and see if it's right. If we get one number right here, we can then derive the remaining 3 numbers. But I don't follow the logic to solving one number correct. There is an odd man out, I suppose, with the number 1 and number 3 here. But yeah, until we solve that, we can't figure out where the 3 and the 2 go here. Although it would imply that it goes here and goes here. And then it says the arrow from row 1, column 7. 3, 2 can be placed in row 2 and the arrow from row 1, column 7, which I guess is supposed to be that this could be a 3, 2 also, and it can't be a 1, 4. Why can it not be a 1, 4? Probably because this is a 1, 4. I want to give it one more half a thought, just half a second here to see. 7 can be placed here, which resolves row 1, column 3. To make this a 6. Which then makes this either 1, 4 or 2, 2, 4, 1, 5. And I guess let's just think about this. If this was 2, 4, then this could be 5, 2, and so that doesn't work. 2, 4, 5, 2. Not possible. If this is 1, 5, then this could be 5, 2. But it wouldn't be, or 4, 3. So this can be solved. I just needed to try both possibilities. Once again, see if we can mark this. So my 1, 5, 4, 3 works. 2, 4, 5, 2 does not work because you have 2 2s in the same box. So that is 1, 5, 4, 3. What am I missing here? A 2 possibility on any of those. Bring that back to a 2. Then an 8, 9 can't be here. Which then makes that 2. Which makes that in yet another 8, 9 pair, which I will go ahead and highlight that, and I'll go ahead and de-highlight that one. Suppose that means all of these can remove the 8, 9s from their possibilities. And assuming everything is right and was right, which is a pretty big assumption, that makes that 2, then that makes that 3. Okay. That makes this a 1, 4 pair at that spot, and removes this from being part of the triple, and removes this from being part of the triple, the quadruple in this case. But I don't see another number jumping out. I see a 6, 7 pair here that we could highlight. Things are slowly changing. Possibly this creates a scenario now where this 2 plus 7 can get to 9, or this 4 plus 5 can get to 9, but 6 is no longer viable. And I don't know if that changes too much others. We know a 4, 5, and 6, I guess, are the only possibilities in this part. So there we have another grouping. Which that can't be right. That is only 4, 5, and 6. There's a possibility. There's got to be a 2 somewhere in this. Missed the 2s. So that 2, that very possibly is an error that has been holding me back. Although I don't think really that's the case. I think there is a high chance that these arrow puzzles solutions are the main problem and the only problem I've run into. If this is a 6-7 pair, we can go ahead and remove, once again, 6 and 7 as a possibility. Which maybe that gets me back on track that this has to be 9. Let's see, what are the other options? It can't be 2, can't be 3. Could it be 4? No. Could it be 5? No. Could it be 6? Not with a 6-7 pair. Could it be 8? No. So it has to be 9. Which then that brings us to this pair, making that 9. Which then brings us to this being an 8. We can demark that pair, and we finally have our first box done. About 160, 170 minutes into doing this puzzle with taking a break, which, yeah, breaks may happen, but I definitely don't think they are going to be very helpful as far as making me think about the puzzles or take a break from the puzzles to come back from a fresh state mentally. Let's see, a 3-2 could be placed here on row 2 in the arrow from row 1, column 7. Seemingly seems like it can be solved. Can this really be solved? They don't finish their sentences sometimes here. It just says and the arrow from row 1, column 7. Which is either that saying that a 3-2 can be placed here, which maybe is the case, that this is 2. Let's ask that question. We're trying to get to 9. If we subtract 3 from 9, since that's already done, we're trying to get to 6. We can't do 1-5 to get to 6. We can do 2-4 to get to 6, and we can't do 4-2 to get to 6. So this does, it's probably here and here was supposed to be a 3-2 pair, although I would have never guessed that and seen that. That makes that 2. That makes that 4, which has created some weird situation here. Makes that 1. Then we have a 1 here and a 1 here. We finally solve that. That also makes this 5, making that a 6-7 pair. I think everything else will just start to fall into place if we've done all the extra homework to mark everything correctly and we haven't made any mistakes. Which, yeah, somewhat of a tall order there. You can go ahead and de-highlight that triple. and de-highlight that pair. But even at this, it still feels like there's more work that has to be done. A 6 or 7. Only synergizes so much. Like, we know either a 6 or a 7 is here and then a 5 is here. So maybe I could put a 5 up here like that. And then same is the case here. You can put an 8 up here like that, and I don't know if that really helps much. I don't think the goal is to just test this and see if this is 4, this is 5. So I don't think that would synergize much. If we have only a 1-3 pair here, then we can remove the 3s as a possibility in that, and we can remove the 1 as a possibility of that, and then that would make this a 2-4 pair and a 1-3 pair. It also breaks that being a quadruple into now just being 2 pairs. And this quadruple here also breaks into being just a pair. And then maybe, it's crazy we still have yet to find the solution here, but maybe there's only one possibility here. 1 and 7 equals 8, 3 and 6 equals 9. So yeah, again, if everything's right, that's 1 and that's 7, and then that's a 6 and that's a 3. So we have our second square in a diagonal pattern solved. That then breaks this pair, then makes that 7, and that 6. And I don't see the next step, really. No, the 1 has to be here or here. And if we're trying to get to 9 from that spot, we could calculate the pattern. 4 minus 9 gives us 5, which would then have to be 2 and 3, which means there would be no 1 in this column. Which means something's wrong here. Or my logic's wrong here. 4 minus 9 is 5. And we need to get to 4 because we have this 1. Yeah, I forgot the 1. Let's just highlight what we're looking at. Yeah. It would be 1 minus this is 8. And then if this was 1, then this couldn't be 1. This could be 1 and 2, which then needs a 5, and you can't get to a 5 from 1 and 2 either way. So it's probably got to be 1 and 3 plus this to get to 5, plus this to be 4. Yeah, I do believe that's the only possible combination, but I also believe I haven't really tested this all, so let's just enter the answer though and see if I'm correct. Yeah. That puts a 2 there, and that puts a 2 there. And I do believe at this point, with a lot of guesswork that I've put in here, and a severe lacking of understanding of every single possibility in these patterns, regardless of that, I think we can solve the puzzle now, probably by just basic Sudoku. There are some spots here where only a couple numbers are available, but noticeably there isn't an immediate spot where it's only one option available. Except for the fact that we need a 1 in this column, and we no longer... No, we could be a 1. We need a 2 in this column, and it can't be here. It can't be here. So that has to be 2. Still, this could be a 1. Let's just try basic cycling through all the possibilities. And this also feels like this is... Okay, we eliminated the 3 here. Finally we solved this puzzle. This is one of those puzzles too where I feel like eliminating one number, if we had all the 1 set, would probably not be as helpful as it would be in other puzzles. Okay, that leaves only this as an option for 8, and then you have 2 options there. Makes that a 1, makes that a 3. 4. There's 2 possible 5s. 6s have to be up here. I actually don't have that many 6s set, but you know what? We can set this 6 because we can just add 5 and 1 together. And by setting that 6, that may help us a little bit. It does. It breaks this triple down to a 5. So now you have a 6-7 pair just echoing each other. 7s. No, none of these can be 7. So this has to be 7. No, these aren't highlighted, they're just highlighted the other way. I really do wish that when you are in this mode showing area of influence, it would just turn off the highlights, or maybe just make them a color in the corner. It's, even though this is blue and this is red, and I can clearly see this is blue and red, it still subconsciously just feels like this column here is being highlighted as if it is an area of influence by 7s when it isn't. Don't think we're gonna do anything with 8s for a while. It looks to me like, since this eliminates all the 9s here and this eliminates all the 9s here, that has to be 9. And then that was already a 4. And that's already a 7, 6, and 7 being broken up here. 6, 5, 1. And so our third box, well, I guess maybe our fourth box, we may have gotten that one done technically first, but then our fourth box is here. So we have a few more boxes to go. And we've broken this pair, so we can get rid of that highlight. That brings this down to being a 3, this down to being a 4, this to being a 2, which makes that a 5, makes that a 6. That breaks that triple, or solves that triple. I don't know why I'm saying break. It does technically break the pattern once you've added in more information, but solve is just as good of a word to use and is a little bit more positive. So that's now our third box filled in, and the rest of this is going to be just Sudoku, but weirdly it does seem like we'll fill in this 6-7 pattern almost at the very last second. There. That solves that pair, leaving only a few numbers left. Now it does suck that I stupidly didn't pause the game, and so this time is going to be 40 minutes more, but also I couldn't really care because all of the amount of time that it's taking to solve all these puzzles is ridiculously long, and yeah, I'm definitely not going to win any Sudoku Olympics at this rate. And then at the last step, when you are just down to basic Sudoku solutions, that's when you can get smart hints, but that is also the exact spot you're not going to need solutions or help. There we go. So that is a 7-star, technically took about 190 minutes to solve puzzle number 10. And yeah, I definitely think the best move to do is to just move forward and be ready for the next episode. Like, not to linger on it or think about it too much. I definitely felt like that was way too hard for potentially my second or third puzzle I've done with Arrow Sudoku. If anything, it definitely feels like this free-to-play Cracking the Cryptic sample pack is full of puzzles that really are designed to appeal to people who have already purchased and played the other 6 Sudoku games on Steam from Studio Goya. In particular, I imagine you should just start playing by playing all the puzzles in classic Sudoku, just to get good at solving the classic part of Sudoku, which, yeah, you should be relatively quick about picking up classic Sudoku rules. But then you may very quickly also be bored by classic Sudoku. Anyways, that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.